All right, Carlos, we're live. So, hey, what's up, y'all? This is Aaron LeBauer with LeBauer Consulting. What's up? What's up? This is Aaron LeBauer with LeBauer Consulting and the CashPT Lunch Hour. This is the CashPT Lunch Hour number 24. Thank you for joining us. Today, we have Carlos Berio as our special guest, and I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to have him on the show. I've known Carlos for a long time, and he's just going to drop some awesome knowledge bombs on you guys today. What we're going to do is just wait for everyone to join us in the live room. And in the meantime, let us know in the chat box where you're calling in from, that you can hear us okay. This is one of those things where it's a live show, so sometimes you might your sound might drop out or the video might change, and just make sure no one's playing Xbox in your house. There's nothing else running in the background, like your iPad's not downloading stuff, you're not uploading videos on your other computer, etc. So what's up, Diane from Texas, and everyone else? Just let us know that you can hear us okay. Where are you calling in from? I love to see where people are coming from. I've had people as far away as the North Pole join us, Europe, Asia, etc. What's up, Amanda? What's up, Emmett, Jim, Kathy from Atlanta, awesome. Kyle in Virginia. Hey, Tanya. So guys, just give me a sign in the chat where you're calling in from, if everything's working okay. If at any time during the show the sound drops out, if you're watching us live, if the sound drops out, just refresh your browser. If you're here listening afterwards, it shouldn't really be an issue. But you can always catch the replay of the show on our blog. And if you've signed up to watch live, you'll get a replay by email. So I'm super excited to have Carlos Berio here with us today, and this is just going to be an awesome show. We're going to get started in one moment. I'm just going to wait for everyone else to get in the room. Hey, KC from Austin. We've got Lynn from New Orleans, from Oklahoma, Andrew in PA, Frank in Philly, Jim in Baltimore, Maryland. Oh, I'm Aaron from North Carolina, and I'm a Duke fan. Carlos doesn't really like the Duke
Carlos
team.
is bruised.
Amanda in Tennessee. Anyone else a Duke fan? Who is UNC? So I live in North Carolina. It's like just Duke, UNC. You're either for one team or the other. But there's no hard feelings at the end of the day, except on the loser's side usually. All right. What's up, Tejal? Oh yeah, go Terps. So Carlos, you went to Maryland, huh? Terps aren't even in the ACC anymore.
I know. I saw it. I still have my grudges with Duke.
That's awesome. All right, so we're gonna get started in just a second. Here we are. So if at any time you guys have any questions, just write them up in the chat box. But we will have time at the end for questions. I've got a bunch of questions for Carlos. I've got my own questions. I've got questions that you guys have submitted. So thank you very much. So today on the CashPT Lunch Hour, my guest is Carlos Berio. He's a physical therapist. He's a cash practice owner. He started his cash practice right out of school. He's an employer. He employs multiple therapists and assistants and personal trainers. He has multiple locations in his clinic in Alexandria, DC, and there's some other, I can't remember the other little town, Mount Herman.
McLean.
Oh yeah, McLean, Virginia. Yeah. And so I'm super excited to introduce him. Carlos and I have interacted a whole bunch on Facebook and Twitter. I've spoken with him on the phone a couple times before, even asked him some of the questions we're going to go over today, because I was like, how do you see clinics in your students in your clinic? I don't see it. I don't get it. And he's told me exactly how he did it. And it's like, I got to get him on the show. So without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Carlos. Carlos is from Spark Physiotherapy. And welcome to the show, Carlos.
Thank you very much for having me, Aaron. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, can you give us just a little bit of background and history on how you got started in PT and what's your practice called? What do you guys do? Who do you serve? I know it's kind of a long question, but yeah.
Yeah. So so obviously I went to the University of Maryland, as I pointed out in my chat comment, and I kind of just stayed around. So I began after my undergrad work, a career in like personal training and strength and conditioning. Did that basically since I graduated, moved on to receive a master's degree in clinical exercise physiology, and then opened my own kind of training shop. So I was in partnership with a couple other trainers. We had one space. And after a few years of that, I felt to myself I was kind of doing the most I could do with it. Really early mornings, so kind of the middle of the day was open, late in the evening, and it was not really entrepreneurship. It was kind of just trading time for money. I enjoyed doing it. I really liked the relationships that I was able to build, but wanted to do something a little bit more. A lot of people who I was seeing would come in and saying, well, I have shoulder pain or my back hurts. And while I was skilled enough, I think, to change their exercise programs to help avoid painful, I thought maybe there's more to do. And so I kind of did some research, and I thought physical therapy was just a great fit, especially given a lot of the knowledge I'd already collected along. Went to PT school at Marymount University in Arlington, Virginia, which was like an 8-iron from where I was actually setting up shop, really, really short distance. And I worked full time through PT school as a personal trainer. And when I graduated, just kind of rebranded, hung my shingle up. I did go work in a mill for a short period of time after that. And after about a year and a half of really, really long days, like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., I found that my own business, like that Spark Physiotherapy, was kind of encroaching on the middle of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I had to make a decision, and it became a financial decision. It became a value decision, because in the mill that I was working, I was really kind of just doing mill work, seeing 4 or 5 people at a time, trying to manage traffic. And I knew that ultimately that would not be my long-term kind of home.
So when you were in PT school, were you seeing, how many people a week were you seeing doing personal training?
Probably 25 to 30 appointments a week.
Okay, that's quite a bit. When I did it, I was able to see like 8 people a week max, but all of a sudden they'd be like, all right, Wednesday you got groups, and I was like, but I got 5 patients scheduled.
Yeah.
It was, how did you manage that?
You mean just through PT school?
Yeah, like how'd you manage that?
Just hustle, man. Class maybe started at 9, so I could go in easily at 7 a.m. and get a couple people in there. We were done by 3 o'clock some days, and so everyone kind of knew my school schedule up to some point. Yeah. The hardest was actually during one of my affiliates, which ultimately wound up being my most valuable affiliation, which was about an hour's worth of traffic there and back in Silver Spring, Maryland. Yeah. With one of the people that I consider my mentor and someone I still stay in contact with. And I had to make a decision because he was, the Phil was 9 to 5, but he would keep me late to do extra lab and extra didactic and extra practice. And it was so valuable, but to a point where it's like, hey, I have to leave to go like pay the bills, So I was able to kind of smooth it over, and I think he understood that piece of what I was doing. But that was the hardest part. And as my second affill over a winter. Yeah. So those days are short anyway. It's dark on both ends of my day. But other than that, it was just a matter of wants to. I knew what the goal was, and I knew the type of business that I would be starting when I finished up, which was going to be heavily reliant on a lot of the strength and conditioning and personal training I already do. Right. So I needed to keep that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did you was your final, your last 3 or 4 months, or your final clinical fill, was at the end of school, or was that like
no.
When you did your final one, did you guys have a lot of schooling before you graduated?
Yeah. So the way Marymount did it was I graduated and then had another affiliation over a summer.
Okay.
So I still worked my training gig in the morning, did my fill with 9 to 5 schedule kind of thing, then would work in the evening again. Yeah. So that was tough, but managed it.
Yeah, great. So let me ask you, before I got a couple other questions about that, but let me just ask, so in Spark Physiotherapy, tell us about who are the patients that you guys serve, and how many, and what's your perfect patient? Like, who do you guys treat?
We treat the amateur to competitive mover. So people who, they hurt because they played 3 rounds of golf last weekend. Okay, I went and traveled and I played 70 holes and my back hurts now. I'm like, okay, well, I can help you with that. Or, I play rec league soccer and I tweaked my knee. From there come all the folks who, just have pain, which we all see. But it all stems from the people who want to move on a somewhat competitive basis.
Yeah. Did you do competitive sports at some point?
Yeah, I played baseball throughout high school and into college. I played club ball at Maryland. I made a varsity team in my first year of my graduate program. So, I've played at a high level, and then I played independent league baseball for probably 6 or 7 years after my master's. So I was playing at a high level for, well, a long time. And I enjoy now coaching and that kind of thing too. So I'll coach a 13 or 14U team probably every year until I just have no more time left in my day. But I love the competitive aspect of baseball. And I love how you teach movement through baseball, how you teach discipline through different sports. It's all great.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm a competitive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy.
Okay.
That's why I spend most of my workouts on.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's see. Libby, there's so many questions I got to ask. I want to get them in I want to get them in a good order, like somewhat logical. So when you were in school, was the idea that, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and rebrand? Or, I mean, where was it? Was there this idea that, okay, I have to start my own practice? And was your intention to eventually make your own practice your full-time thing? Or were you just doing that to satisfy your current, patients and clients?
Yeah, I think going in, I understood one of the problems that was kind of plaguing physical therapy. The volume first kind of approach. You can point to any number of reasons why that exists. I'd like to point to third-party payers as the reason that is a problem. So going in, I said, you know what, I'm going to do physio the way I do training, the way I have done training. That's develop real deep relationships with the people that I'm trying to help, educate the hell out of them, advocate for movement as medicine, all that. And I thought, going in, I was like, that's not what's happening right now in physical therapy mills, and it was just confirmed for me as I was going through my training. Even in the clinic that I felt I had some of the most valuable experience, it was more of a mill setting. So I said, this is not the way. And it just really reinforced it for me as I went through. Like, yeah, the way I'm going to do it, whether it's the right way, it's the way I want to do it. Right. So that's how we're going to do it.
Awesome. When you came to the point where your Spark Physio was encroaching on the middle of your day, how did you make that decision that it's time to quit my other job? It didn't sound like it was job dissatisfaction as much as your other thing was making it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of job satisfaction. Shortly in, I felt like I wasn't learning anything. I think a lot of new students are sold on this idea that, well, we have this team dynamic and there's going to be learning and you're going to have journal club, and that's just bullshit. Like that is not what happens. That is never what happens. And it's one of the reasons I enjoy taking students on, because I give them the candid, like, that's not going to happen. Like, so don't worry about it. Almost you have to look at other aspects of different gigs if you want to go and say, oh, yeah, this is for me. So shortly in, I was like, I'm not really learning a lot. I'm kind of on an island. And I really enjoy the delivery that I'm doing on the front and back end of my day.
Right.
So it was a combination of that. And then we talked about, people want you to see their sister because her elbow hurts. So this one, Timmy plays baseball and he just threw a tournament in 6 games and now his arm hurts. It's like, okay, well, I can help. Like, let's do that. And they wanted to get back into the day. And so it was nice because the people who ran the mill I was working in were amenable to my schedule. They understood what I was trying to do. They understood I had enough integrity not to be stealing people back and forth, that kind of thing. And they understood. So with that support, I was able to break off. It was a very stressful decision. I had advice from a lot of colleagues and friends and family about how this should all go. And the best quote I ever heard was, leap and the net shall appear. And when I heard that quote, I said, that's what I'm doing. Let's just go. And
that's a good one. That's a good one. I got to write that down. Do you know who said that, or was it just a friend?
It was a friend of mine. I'm sure he didn't make it up, although he's a smart guy. So I don't know.
That's awesome.
But I have used that quote many times.
Yeah.
And I always credit the guy. So
yeah, that's great. So that was such a great quote, and like it cleared everything out of my head. So we're gonna go in another direction. That was really great. Yeah, I think I got a lot of resistance too. So what year was that? Like, how long ago was this when you graduated?
Oh, I graduated in, holy moly, 2009.
Okay.
And so it was a year and a half of the grinding. I'll do kind of both gigs.
Yeah.
About 8 months in, I went from a full-time schedule to like a half-time schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So the owners of the clinic were like, "Hey, can you just do like 10 to 3?"
Right.
Like, all right, I can do that, And so I am, as it happened in my strength and conditioning experience, I got to know the owners of the mill I worked in intimately before I even graduated.
Okay.
I was getting emails and phone calls like, "You're working with us. You're coming over, and it's gonna be awesome." I'm like, "Oh, all right. At least I have a job. That's nice."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I still have contact with them. He still owns the Monster Clinic. They have some hundreds of clinics along the East Coast.
Wow.
And they're doing fine.
Yeah.
They're doing it one way, and I'm going to do it a different
way. Right. That's beautiful. So tell us a little bit more about Spark Physio. Like, how big of a clinic? Where are you like right now? So you've grown from this one person grinding away, working probably 12-hour days or more, to where are you now? Like, how many PTs work there? How big is your space, your locations, and how many people do you see a week?
Yeah. So look, we from the beginning, we started in a 300 square foot room, had a desk and a bed in it, and that was it. Maybe it was 300 square feet. It was just me. It was inside a virtual office space, so I had a phone number and a mailing address and all that kind of thing, and someone who wasn't me picking up the phone to help with scheduling and that kind of thing. We bumped out inside of that very space to like the 800 square foot version of the same thing. We had 2 beds now, 2 desks. We utilized the fitness center inside of the building that we're in for some of the work we were doing. And that was also in partnership with the building management. So we are a fitness center management team for those folks. Great relationship. It still works out great. And now we're in roughly 2,000 square foot space in Alexandria, Virginia, in an office park. You probably wouldn't find us if you just drove down the street, but that's okay. Yeah. Most of our clients come direct access, word of mouth, that kind of thing. We have 3 full-time physical therapists, including myself, a full-time office administrator, and a couple contract personal trainers who come in and out and do some training. We all do training. We all do strength and conditioning. We all do physio. Short of the personal training group.
Right. Awesome. And it's your other location. Is that like a satellite clinic, or is that like,
Yeah, so that one is in a 5,000 square foot space that is a baseball skills facility. They do pitching and hitting lessons, that kind of thing. It's run by a bunch of guys who I've come to know over the last few years. They're awesome, awesome coaches, great coaches' eyes. I've learned a ton from them. But it's fun because when I go and watch like a pitching lesson, and I just see movement differently. That's kind of our power, our superpower, one of our Jedi powers. We see it happen on a different scale through different lens. And so Timmy's having a hard time missing glove side. Well, why? Well, he's leaking out to the left. Well, why? What's his hip mobility look like? What? You can yell at Timmy all you want. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change anything. Right. If he is running into himself, literally, well, maybe we need to address that. So one of the cool things we would do is we just grab him for 5 minutes. We'll do a mob. We'll do a neuro re-ed thing.
Yeah.
Go back and throw again. And then this happens, and all of a sudden, spinning like a top anymore. He's getting over his front leg like the way you normally should. So these are the ways we kind of integrate ourselves in that kind of a setting. And so we have 2 beds in that facility in McLean. It's about 30-minute drive from here.
Okay, awesome. And you have someone over there every day, or is that just a couple days a week?
Just a couple days a week. Yeah, just a couple days a week. And we do a couple different special events. So we just finished up the baseball combine. So we do different sports-specific combines. We have a baseball one we just wrapped. We're going to do a soccer and a golf one coming up here, where we take some real fun kind of strength and conditioning metrics, combine it with a physio exam, produce a report for athletes and parents, and it just gives people an idea about what to do over and off season, whether they use us for service or they, go and do their own thing, on what to address. So it's a lot of fun.
That's cool. Tell us more about the combine. Is that like a week-long program? You charge people for that type of thing, or
the combine is a one-day event. So we'll publicize that right now. I just sent an email out about a golf combine we're doing. We have regular athletic measures, which are kind of your typical, what you would think about if you thought about an NFL combine, broad jump, vert, 5-10-5, that kind of thing. And then we take golf, in this case, we break it down to some of its more rough parts and find tests that might measure the important aspects of being an adequate golfer. We do it over a day. And then in this case, we're actually going to have kind of a discovery workout for those people who attended the golf combine. As many guys as get in a room. And then from there, they can make a decision. Like, all right, look, my broad jump stinks compared to criterion movers in my area who play my sport. Broad jump should be this, or it should be this percentage of my overall, production on the combine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an important thing. Or maybe it's not broad jump. Maybe it's bottoms up kettlebell hold for shoulder dynamic stability. All right, cool. So we can help you with that. Like, or I can just teach you one or two things and you can help yourself with that. But that's how we kind of break it all down, and it just creates a great learning environment, and it's fun. I love the movement. I love the beehive kind of nature of these kinds of things.
And are you charging people for that event and trying to get them as patients?
Yeah, so we are doing a seminar at a country club coming up here soon. Anyone who attends the seminar gets to combine for a little less expensive than normally is. But we do charge for the combine. We charge for the workout. We charge for our ADIP program. But we do incentivize people who kind of get into all the pieces and take advantage of all that learning to remain in the loop.
Okay. Would you mind sharing like what you charge for the combine?
Yeah, the combine was we did for $50.
Okay.
And for the people who attend this golf seminar, it's going to be half price. The workout for golf, we actually not nailed down a price point yet, but it's probably going to be something on the $15 to $25 a head rate. And we'll offer the same thing, half off if you attended the combine. Okay. And then we'll offer on the ADIP program, which is a 12-week athletic development and injury prevention program, like probably 25% off or something like that if you attended.
Okay.
Those
what's the price of that 12-week program?
That is, let's see, about $1,400 to $1,600.
Okay. Yeah. And is that like a home program? Is that three days a week in the clinic or 3 days?
Oh, that's with us. That is one-on-one hour pop. It's 12 visits, but usually people take it over the 12 weeks and that kind of thing, and then they'll do their own work. The idea is you come in, you learn what correct intensity should feel like, because I think some of the things that I have learned in my training career is regularity and intensity are the main barriers. People don't do anything enough, and then when they are doing it enough, they're not doing it hard enough. They're also aiming a lot of times their self-care at general movement's great, but if I want to golf, then my rotary coil has got to be tight. So what am I doing to improve that? I'm doing squats or I'm doing deadlifts. Or that's great. Those are awesome. You should be doing those. But there's a point inside of your athletic year where you should be doing things that are more golf-like. So we teach them that. We give them, arm them with a lot of cool moves, and they do that.
Awesome. And then how many people attended the last combine, the baseball one that you just did?
Oh, let's see here. It was only a couple hours, probably about 20.
20? So 20 at $50, that's a good take home for a couple hours.
Yeah. And we had a bunch of students come and help, and that was a lot of fun. The idea too is that you see student PT volunteers come in and realize like this physio thing is not only what I'm seeing at school. It's got a broader reach. So they were a good help.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think group classes are totally underused or understated, and I mean, they can be a great, like you get 20 people, 30 people in a room for $30, $50 a piece for a couple hours. That's a nice take home, and it's a great lead generator. Yeah. I mean,
that's how we see it.
Yeah. Getting people into your program, into the 12-week program.
Yeah. And then ultimately like, oh, you know what? My, a year down the road or 5 months down the road, I might tweak my ankle doing my thing. All right, well, let me help you with that and go on your way again. That's the idea.
Yeah. Who do I know and trust? Who knows golf?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really awesome. While we're on the marketing topic, what are some of the other things that you've done to market your practice?
We're actually writing quite a bit more. I've used social media. I'm not an expert at it, but we did do a little bit of work with a PR group some time ago, who just reinforced the importance of having having our hands in different social media pots and that kind of. So we have a blog that comes out pretty regularly. I recently got on board with U.S. News and World Report to write monthly for their Eat and Run blog. So that's something that's coming out.
That's awesome. What's the name of that? Tell it. If someone wants to read that, how do we find that?
Their blog is called Eat Plus Run. So it comes out, and I always tweet out when my piece gets published. It's been in for review, and so it's actually the Sports Pain Jedi piece, which should be a lot of fun. Awesome. Kind of the 4 things you didn't know your physio could help you with. So that's kind of the idea, is just get more information out there. And other than that, we rely on a lot of our people to sing our praises. And
do you do anything to encourage your patients to tell other people about you, or do you like email them, or just let them know, hey, we'd love it if you tell other people? Is there something that you guys are doing to?
We actually ask, and that was something that I was introduced to a long time ago. It felt real foreign, but specifically asking, is there someone? Are there 3 names? And can I help someone that is close to you? That's one of the most effective we have found.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that we do a lot more than that. And we probably could even be better at that, doing that more regularly.
Do you do any paid advertising anywhere?
No. Maybe it would be great if it did, but
I mean, I don't, and I don't think it's the best thing for small clinics. So,
yeah.
I think I don't think you necessarily need to, but I think the prevailing thought is that, well, we got to be doing paid advertising. And, I mean, I think it's good for people to know that you don't need to do that, to get people. It's a very difficult and challenging way to do it, Has there anything that you guys have tried marketing wise that just didn't work?
Yeah, we did a thing where we were contributing. We were doing kind of an ad in a health periodical. So you could write a piece and they'd stick a picture in there and whatever. And I'm like, oh, cool, putting this great information out there. But the pieces never really got much traction. You would get a stack of the magazine or whatever it is, but like how many other people actually read this thing? And it just never really materialized into useful leads. So, I thought, okay, let's give this a shot. We did it for 2 years. Probably cost a couple $100 a month. And I thought in the end, that was just too much to sink in. It was nice because we were still generating content, which we still use, whether we're pulling snippets out for tweets or other blog posts. But that's really the best we got out of that.
Yeah. Are you tracking leads from like social media and your other stuff? How do you do that? How do you know what you're doing is being effective?
Yeah, we actually have a little bit of a system that tracks just general impressions, organic versus inorganic shares, that kind of thing. So if I hit like a topic that makes a lot of sense, that really resonates, we will hit that topic more often after the report comes out, that kind of thing. So that's new over the last 6 months, and it's been pretty useful. We've also recently added Instagram, which is interesting. I've never really messed with that. But we are in the process now of trying to understand if there is a 30 to 60 second little video vignette that we could do on a regular basis that would provide anybody useful information. So like, what is the topic is our current question. Like, are we exercise a day person? Somebody already does that. Are we erroneous physician diagnosis people? Maybe that's good because there's a lot of those, but what is it that we're going to use? Right now, it's fun stuff. We have our Elf on a Shelf that's kicking ass. It's so much fun to watch.
Did you guys do Elf? Or is that you that did the Elf with the trap bar lift type of and stuff?
Yeah. Our Elf does a bunch of crazy stuff. Little Duncan is getting a lot of play. And that's the funniest thing. That guy gets tons of likes and shares and whatever. And like, I'll write a post that takes me 2 weeks to write on, why your physio helps you, prevent injury. And like my mom shared
it. Right. Yeah, no, it's so true. It's like, what do people want? Like they it's almost like they want to feel good, by proxy versus, that's awesome. That's really cool. So, one thing we were talking about before we went live was just your space there. And we talked about, can you give us like a little, can you pick up your computer and just give us a little mini tour and see if this works?
Let's see here. Let's see if this works. Okay, I'm going to try and be very still. All right. There you go.
All right.
So I'm at my office area, which is typically messy. That's fine. And then here's our kind of our workspace. Everyone kind of just has a little desk. We just chill out, bang it out. Here's Nicole. Say hi. There you go. Here's the clinic. So we're panning around.
Yeah.
Kristen is hippa-ing. Ivy is eating lunch.
That got kicked out.
Yeah, kicked out of the office. You can get in your office. Okay, so now we're walking into the space where the magic happens. Let's see if this light turns on. So here's our fitness center. Everyone should have a tractor tire and a Vertec in their fitness center, right?
Yeah.
And then a squat rack. We got about 1,000 pounds worth of bumper plates. We swoop around here. Just a bunch of the fun junk. A lot more heavy stuff. big power blocks, sledgehammers, our turf floor, which we use our sled on. This is pretty much it. Big battle rope in the corner.
Mm-hmm. How many square feet? How many square feet
This
is this?
This space, this fitness center space is about 1,400 square feet. So the remainder of the 2,000 is the clinic.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's the whole deal.
Dude, that's great. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Let's get
That's
you back
really awesome.
inside.
So inside, on the other side of these doors, is the treatment tables where you do mobs and manual therapy. And
You got it.
where do you guys do evaluations? Just right in here?
Right in here.
All right.
Yep.
Love it.
Let's get you back.
This is so great.
Busy.
Yep. So there's a question came through from Cullen. He asked, do you have a waiver or release for your combine, and is it different than your normal form for people that come in for performance or training?
Yes and yes. It's pretty typical kind of. We have a park queue that goes with it, and then we actually do ask for permission for use of images for like marketing and that kind of stuff. So we were tweeting out pictures of the combine and some guys who were running through that. But it's a standard kind of exercise waiver more than anything else. And
awesome.
I saw someone ask a question about why it's so cheap to do the combine. Actually, it's funny. It takes any one person, all told with hands on, 10 minutes to do that combine. So think of the per minute value of the price that we do it. And I'm not trying to get rich doing combines. Really, it's about getting good measurements. It's about peer comparison. So when we do a 14U baseball group, we compare each guy to other 14Us in that group. And then we also compare those kids to a group of prospect baseball players, guys who have either played in college or are currently playing in college or have played professionally. And then we show them what percentage of the performance is actually like the criteria mover they want to be. So it's easy and it's fast and it's fun. So I don't feel like I've got to charge. I certainly could charge a lot more for it. But that's not the point. I don't think it's the point.
Right. Well, I think it's almost like the serving proposition there is to give people some good value and get them into that 12-week program. It's like here's the low offer. Let's give you some trust and likability, and we get in front of people. And I think that's some of the best marketing that I've done too. Is I've done a yoga work, like a back pain workshop for Power Yoga, and I made $500, and I got 3 or 4 patients out of it. And I mean, with the lifetime value of a patient or two, I mean, it pays for itself, like hands down, easy. Yeah. So, so tell us, what's the sports pain Jedi? Like, who is that guy?
We've been trying to come up with a phrase that actually encapsulates what we do. I think the term physical therapist is sort of dead. I think it's at, how would I say this? It's to our benefit that it is extremely a very broad term. If I ask 10 people who are PTs what they do on a daily basis, some work with children, some work with people who have had, stroke or other, whatever, acute care people, geriatric folks, people work in a SNF, people work in ortho, people work only in joints in a hospital someplace. So it's not really descriptive. I think when you tell someone what you do for a living, it should immediately give that person an understanding about when they can seek you out for help. So, hey, I'm an accountant. Well, I know exactly when I need to call that person. Hey, do you got a card? My taxes are coming up, or I got a problem with my bank account, or, that is when I know I need to see an accountant. Or, you know what? I'm a CIO of some large company. Cool. You understand all this stuff about, how the internet works and how to do information technology. I get it. I understand what you are. But when I say I'm a physical therapist to somebody, while the typical PT that you think of is probably along the lines of an ortho, kind of practice, there are so many more other PTs out there. But when I tell someone I'm a sports pain Jedi, they know exactly when they need to ask me a relevant question. They go, oh. And actually, it's funny, the day I came up with that, and I'm not taking credit for it. I was really excited because I put the question out to some people I was teaching at a course, and I saw her really absorb what I was trying to get out of this. And then she came back the next day and she came to me and said, sports pain Jedi. And my head blew up. I spun around 100 times. I said, that's perfect. Because I didn't want the title to be, I wanted it to be playful because I think that's our thing. We are real approachable. Our clients have our cell phone numbers. They text us questions. They email us, they call. They really believe that and I think it's because we just do a good job of being their advocate. We are right there for them the instant they need it. They get, they injure themselves playing sports, or they fall down on the ice. They go, you know what? If I'm hurt, I know where to go to get help. So it also helps because they don't feel crippled by little things that happen to us all the time.
Yeah.
So I thought being playful was important, but I thought really saying, aiming our title at the people we want to see, which are, I play basketball in a rec league and I want to continue to be able to do that, and I'm 60. Okay,
Right.
well, you have sports pain then if you hurt. Like, I tweaked my knee making a cut.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's sports pain if I've ever heard it.
Yeah.
And I want you to come see me.
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing about that is it came from like a patient, and it's like patient's language.
Yeah.
Sports pain.
Yeah.
Like you might go, oh, it's sports pain, but it's sports pain is what they have,
Right.
and that's
right.
their language, and that's their, that's the patient's issue, and that's what they understand.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
I think more of us should think about that kind of thing. I mean, I've got a great friend and colleague who actually lives out in Seattle now, and she's a peds PT, and we were at some place, and I think someone overheard us talking, and then someone said, "Oh, you're a PT? My elbow hurts." And they looked at her, and she's like, "I can't help you at all. Ask him." And I'm see, that's a problem. That is the problem. Like, I'm a pediatric blank specialist or whatever. There are also some other rules about like having a concise name, which I thought were important. Because I've tinkered with words like, well, sports pain specialist. I thought that was like, sounded like I thought too much of myself and that kind of stuff. Or expert. I'm like, no, I'll never call myself that. But Jedi I thought was a great word. I'm going to stick with it for a little while until George Lucas finds me. And then I'll probably change it to wizard or ninja or something like that.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I like the word. I like voodoo as well a little bit, but not like for me. But like I was telling you for Tiger Balm, like I told you, like
Yeah.
Rub this on you. It's like it's got some voodoo in it. I mean, I don't really tell people. It's like it's kind of like the idea of someone. It's something that patients understand. Yeah. Like they understand like voodoo. They don't understand the neurological response to why something like that might be effective.
Right. Yeah, so I totally understand.
It's like if I try to explain that to them, they're like, "Huh?" I'm like, just rub this on there. Got some voodoo on it.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's great. So, one of the big topics I want to spend some good time on is, and this is what I called you about. I think we talked on the phone maybe about a year ago, because I've been having a lot of DPT students and even clinical professors call and say, "Hey, we'd love to have students come in your clinic. I know that there are other cash-based PTs that would love to have students come in their clinic." I think the fear that a lot of people have is the students are going to come in. Students don't really know what I know. They're going to devalue my offering. People are paying 120, 165, whatever per visit. How can I justify sticking them with a student?
Right.
So can you tell us, when did you first see a student, and how do you work your student affiliation program?
It was probably like the third year I was in practice. We had moved from the single bed like space to a 2-bed area. And when I saw my first part-time affiliation, and then moved on like probably the next year to do a full. I thought from the beginning that this was an important thing to expose to the non-head nodders. Like you and I are head nodders. We get it
right now.
Yeah, the people in the comments, but they get it. They want to do this. They understand the value of that. But students have never been exposed to it. This is such a small slice of the people doing what we do that it's just not likely to be exposed to them. And unfortunately, because we're so spread out as cash practice people, it's likely they'll never get exposed to it. So I thought I could do that. And I have kind of informal phasing in program. It's something I've written down. It's about feel. It's about how I understand a student gets a patient's case, or the specifics on a treatment that I'm doing, or an exercise that I'm introducing, or a wrinkle that I've taken in or added, or whatever. And so when they do that, number one, our students are never without a therapist. So like we're on top of them. Part-time affiliates never, ever, ever do anything without a therapist directly on top of them. The only time it becomes that phasing out kind of thing happens is when we see full-time affiliation. So people are going to be here for 12 or 14 weeks. And in those folks, what I will typically do is probably 5 or 6 weeks in, when I know that they understand this person in front of them and what I am doing, I'll go, hey, listen, I gotta go run to the restroom. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I do this similar to the way you, this is gonna sound terrible, the way you potty train a dog.
Uh-huh.
You know, you don't leave the dog, well, okay, the dog's potty trained, I'm gonna leave you for 10 hours now. You leave for 5 minutes and you come back and the dog goes, oh, you're back. Okay, good. Everything's all right. And then you leave the next day for 10 minutes. And then you can leave for an hour. That's what I do. So I got to run to the restroom. Okay, you know what? I'm going to check the mail. I'm kind of extending the amount of time, not only for the student, but for the client on the table or doing the exercise to say, well, I was with them for, 5 minutes and then nothing happened. And they did exactly what Carlos does or what Ivy does or what Kristen does. And it felt exactly the same because, well, they've also been on top of them for the last 4 weeks that I saw them.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that. And ultimately, some people, and it may be certain clients, it may be certain students who really have a grasp of certain things, where it's like, you know what, so-and-so is going to do your manual today. Oh, okay, well, I felt her do that before. Great, no problem. Like, I'll be here. I'm just gonna sit here, do my notes, or I'm gonna watch you, or we're gonna have a conversation about what's going on.
Yeah.
And after that, it's like, yeah, this is the same. I mean, you are making this valuable because it's like your hands are working directly through, and they've felt it. They know the process. And so when someone comes in to do a 12-week fill, I'll tell them you're likely not to see any of your own patients until the very end of this, maybe the 7 or 8 week mark. And now we've gained some notoriety in the area where people they expect that, they value that extra mentorship. They definitely value not being handed a caseload of patients saying, all right, here's the fridge, here's the hydrocollator, go for it, see you later.
Were the requirements from the school or the school's the clinical instructors, were they at all like, well, no, you have to give the students more free time, or were they at all
Nope.
resistant to what you're doing?
Not at all. I've only had, well, it's not true. I've had both of the clinic of the programs that are in the area that would send the majority of students. I've had their people over. They wanted to take a look. They wanted to help talk to us, and they are fully on board. They're more head nodders. They're in academia too. One of the funny things that I have, I think, is in the background of a lot of the way we talk to people and the way we do research. Is that the amount of time many times that people who are in these research groups, the amount of time they're actually with a physio or a physician who's doing the research intervention is not 10 minutes at a time. On average, it's 30 minutes or more. So in academia, they go, yeah, well, geez, you're doing this protocol, or you're doing this movement like to the letter of this research because you have the time.
Right.
Versus if I'm in a clinic and I only get 10 minutes to somebody, I may be doing the exact right thing, but I'm not doing it for the amount of time that paper said I was supposed to do it. So how is this generalizable at all? Right. So at least we have that, and the academics actually appreciate it.
Now, do you interview the students at all before they come to see you? And
yeah.
How does that work?
For full-time fills, we ask for at least 3 candidates, and it's really just for fit.
Yeah.
One of the A's that's kind of the most important for success here is being affable. People have to want to be here with you. It doesn't matter how smart you are at some point. You only need to be smart enough to do this, to know enough of the techniques, to know enough of the differential diagnosis. And once you've got that, now you need to be enjoyed. So when someone comes in and they see someone who's kind of a doorknob, or you're not that like engaging or fun to be around, if I could pick that out in the beginning of this, then I'd like to be able to do that, and it saves everyone a little bit of headache, because it's not great for that student either if this is not the right setting for them.
Right. That's awesome. Now, because so the other question is I know, like, so my setting, like, I've got a private treatment room, and I know a lot of people on the call here today do more private treatment rooms versus like open clinic that you have, an open gym. If you were doing, private treatments, would you change anything, or do you see how that would that be different, or would you operate differently if you just like, okay, we're doing we have like these private treatment rooms. Would you do anything different in that regard?
It's possible. We ask every client whether or not they will be okay with a student being around at all. I mean, even some of them, and it's a rare occasion, but some just don't want a student involved whatsoever. No observation, don't touch me. And in that way, I had to respect those people and say, hey, you know, you're going to go and do some notes, or you're going to get lunch or whatever, because this person doesn't want you to be involved. Even those people usually warm up. But in those cases, we leave it completely up to the client. So they have to be completely on board with the educational kind of thing.
Yeah. So do you ask people ahead, like, you know, like the day the student comes in, or just the day, hey, so Johnny student's here today. Is it okay if they come and, you know, observe and watch and participate in the treatment today?
Yeah, it's not super regular that we have to wait till that last minute, but we have, and that's been adequate. You know, we don't have the student in front of them, you know, so I'll say, hey, just before you go in, I got a student here from this university. They're a second year. Is it cool if they just watch? They're not gonna be actually doing anything today. Yeah, okay, that's cool. They're just gonna watch it. No problem. I got a third year in their fourth week. You surprised you met them. Is it cool if they did this party treatment? Nah, you know, I'd rather you do that. Okay, no problem. So I'm just gonna do the treatment, and I actually enjoy talking through whether it's differential or it's, you know, pain decreasing mechanism, whatever, with my patients anyway, like all the time. So for any student to just sit there and listen, they're getting something out of that.
Right.
You know, and then in the end, it's like, you know, I was doing something to this person's ankle. Let me do it to your ankle so you can feel what I was doing, and you can practice on me.
Right.
And that's how we would handle that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see like where also like people who are doing pelvic floor stuff, it's going to be a little different. They might say, you know,
oh,
like that would be
that person's getting referred out. Man.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think you know, it's just like, how do you, you know, like how do you position, you know, your clinic, you know, like, so when everyone comes in your clinic, they're used to what you guys offer.
Yes.
You know, the people come to my clinic, they're used to what I offer. And it's, I guess part of it is just saying, hey, you know, we're going to offer this extra thing. The students, you know, do you kind of position it as a student is any kind of benefit to the patients as well? Or it's just like, we've just got them here and, you know, cause I know some people kind of position like we're a teaching, you know, facility and.
Yeah. I don't think I have to do that outright. But here's one thing that, the majority of people who see us do see us after having been through a couple mills, you know, or seeing physicians that have told them they're freaking crazy or whatever. So when they get to us, they almost like, you know what, more people need to do this the way you are doing it. So yeah, watch. No, you didn't feel like Carlos did it. You didn't do it like Kristen did it. Okay, no, that feels like that. Okay, that's what I want. That's what I need. That's why I'm here. So more of them have that perspective. Like, no, we need more people doing it like this. Please bring them on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome to hear. That's great. That's great. Is there any other advice you have for someone who wants to start taking students in their clinic, you know?
Just do it. There's no real other advice. Like it's not as detrimental to the value proposition. You can't disconnect yourself from it. So, you know, I will never, so another one of the rules is that we'll never have more than one student, because we've had many requests for people to come and do full-time at Phil's. But if I won't have more than one student in the clinic at all. So I could be a CI, and so could, you know, Kristen Lattimore. But I have a student this semester, so she cannot. The idea is that, you know, this student may see something that Kristen does slightly differently than I do, or explains something a little bit differently. So, all right, this hour you're going to hang out with her, or you're going to do a running, you know, eval with Ivy. That's all great, but you know, the richer experience would be the single student to the clinic for our purposes.
Right, right. Did you do this when you were the only PT?
Do which?
Were you a CI as like a solo practitioner?
Yeah. So like my third year, I didn't have anybody. That was still kind of in the you know, just myself. You know, kind of bringing somebody aboard, that process. So, yeah.
Great. And so tell us a little bit. Like, when did you hire your first employee, and when did you feel like you needed to?
Okay. I hired in my like 3.5, 4th year. I hired Ivy Jordan. It was after a couple not good hires. They didn't work, you know, people didn't work out for some reason or another. I was learning how to hire people. I was learning how to evaluate a resume, or how to evaluate someone's thought process, you know, so I was screwing things up, you know, like all over the place, and that's fine. Ultimately, it was funny. We just had a conversation about this today. She turned down my offer. Went on to work in a clinic someplace in DC. I hired someone else. That person didn't work out. 6 months later, I shot an email, said, "Hey, you still interested maybe?" And she had just quit her gig. It was like, what do I do? Like, so, okay, I'm wrong. All right, we'll get the timeline down later. Doesn't matter. She came on and has been she's our most senior therapist now, with us about 4 years. And it's been great. So after that, the swell is what you want to manage. You kind of get momentum. You see a lot of people. You're getting referrals. You're answering questions. You're generating leads. You kind of put up with the volume as long as you can, and ultimately you can only say no a certain number of times before you got to stop saying no.
Right.
And then you bring someone else on. Things kind of slow down a little bit. That swell picks back up. And that process just repeats itself as much as you like.
Mm-hmm. Where did you find Kristen, or like, did you advertise somewhere, or did you email people, or how'd you find her?
Each time I had put out like an ad for a PT, it did not work out.
Yeah.
When I stopped looking is when they kind of showed up. So Ivy was via like, let's see, I think it was via an ad at start, but then she didn't work out, like I said, and then I wasn't looking until the therapist I had hired fell off. So she came aboard, and then the next therapist I hired, I met at a dry needling seminar that I was doing some teaching at. I saw her. I was able to see her for 4 different weekends over the course of an entire year, get to know her a bit. And she moved from North Carolina to take the job, and has been here. It'll be 2 years here soon. So
Awesome.
it's going pretty well. And actually, we're in the process kind of now of looking for our next rent with the option to buy PT. we're gonna be doing kind of like a nights and weekends, and then let's see if you can get rolling and that kind of thing. So that's the next 6 months, I think.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm in the process of looking for my first PT employee, and it's not an easy process by any means.
No.
I think
it's got to be fit. It's got to be. They got to understand why you're doing it this way and not another way.
Yeah, I think a big part of it for me was just coming to the decision that this is something that I wanted to do. Not like did I know it could happen, but just like, did I want to do that? And then it's just putting all these pieces in place is taken a while. Is there something specific that you look for in your employees?
Everyone's a therapist at this, at the level where I'm asking people to come on and work. Do they have? I think the number one thing is exercise. Like, how much of a background do you have in teaching, progressing, exercise that is specific to a sports or specific to function? I've fortunately gotten to do a little bit more work with Marymount University in the recent past as part of their exercise physiology kind of curriculum to like introduce, the way we look at movement and then how we address interesting movement.
Yeah.
It's no bad movement. They're good. It's just like, well, that's odd, especially for what you want to do. So let me show you how we address it. Because we don't get that in PT school. One of the things that I think was beneficial for me is that I had a long career in strength and conditioning and just exercise for a long time. So a lot of my care is movement based. So having that understanding, whether you played sports or you enjoy exercise or you have been a trainer or you have done Pilates or whatever, that's key. I've been asked so many times how important like a CSCS is, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's great. Do you coach anyone? Well, I think the letters mean nothing. Like, you can study for an exam. Like, when's the last time you coached someone to like improve something? That's the key here. So if you have that, that's the first piece. And then the other part is like just customer service, I guess you'd say. We like to call it like biopsychosocial model or approach. I think that's a really complicated way of saying like treat a person like a person who you want to help. Like that's silly. But I would say, yeah, we're like a biopsychosocial clinic. We let people talk a lot. We get to different depths with regards to how they're presenting and why what we're going to what we are going to do might help them, and we get them involved in the decision making for that kind of stuff. But for me, that's just treating people like people, and I've been doing that since I was a trainer for a long time. So I thought I was I just listened differently than typical PT students, and that's a key when you want to come on to do what we do.
That's awesome. That's great. What how do you like financially compensate your PTs? Are you doing salary, bonus? Can you just give us a general like idea like what are you doing and how'd you come up with what you're doing?
Yeah, we have everyone's on salary, and then we also have a profit sharing incentive program. So, well, actually, the only person not on salary is me. Everyone else gets paid before I get paid. So, if you once you come on, there's a number established for the amount of liability you present to the clinic. So, plus your benefits, your vacation, your base rate, all that kind of stuff. And then I say, okay, once you have earned the clinic that much nut for the month, anything you bring in that is over that, you'll get 10% up. So it incentivizes you to do a little bit more. If you want to, if you want to eat well, hunt harder. Like do more to get people in who are seeking your care. So it takes a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit to like grab that and run with it. But I think it really takes the top off the limits as to how much money you can make, how rewarding your profession can be, that kind of thing. And it's just been useful. It's worked out for us. And we pay competitive. I would say it's a competitive salary, but it's I'm sure if you went and worked for one of these mega mills, they'd offer you more right off the top. But what are you getting for that? I mean,
right. Are you like, how do you calculate that? You got a spreadsheet running, or you run like a analytics at the end of the month off of something?
Yeah. So they'll report all of their gross revenue. Like, okay, I did this many visits, I did this many training sessions, and this is how much literal dollars and cents came in, and I balance it against what they cost the clinic, and I say, here, you're getting a bonus this month. Good job. Keep it up.
So do you pay like twice monthly and the bonus once monthly?
That's a good question. We do a biweekly thing, so 26 payrolls a year, and then what happens is because the reporting never really comes out like at the end of the month. When the last month is calculated, they'll just get another chunk on their check for that. It's broken out as like a quarterly or profit bonus or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it just happens. It just has to happen when the month closes out on the paperwork.
Gotcha.
Just logistically.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I did have a question. It was more like clarification from Gianna. She asked, did you have your current clinic before you hired your first patient? Like, so where you are now, I think you said you were in weren't you in like another location when you hired your first therapist?
Yes. Yeah. So we were in the larger version of the small space, which is about 800 square feet of office. And then we were also using the fitness center was on site in the building. So, it's luck or it's opportunity or whatever you call it. I was one of the first tenants in that building, and that building wasn't even done being built. And I'd come to find out that they were going to put a fitness center in that space. I was able to get a meeting with the people who were making those decisions. I said, listen, let me help you put together a different kind of fitness center for this area. Because they were going to put a bunch of treadmills in and a set of dumbbells and make it a courtyard Marriott. All right, that's great, but nobody uses those. So what are you doing? So I took their budget. I think I took $15,000 off the top of it using the vendor relationships that I have, and I built them a real versatile space with several pieces of the cardio equipment and a power cage and a pulley system and a universal gym and a bunch of other stuff. And I'm like, okay, this gym has something for every single person in this building. Like, if you hate treadmills but you like weight training, cool, you got that. If you just like the recumbent bike, cool, that's there too. Versus if you don't like treadmills and you don't like a set of dumbbells, you're not using that gym ever. And so that was what we used too. We were able to use that space to see our patients and our clients. And then we bumped out to this space that we're currently in. It'll be 5 years ago in July.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. What's next for Spark Physiotherapy?
We're the point where the swell is kind of lifting us up to where we got to either look for a little bit more room, bump out to larger space. Again, likely hire someone in the next 10 months who can be a release valve for some of the work we're already doing. Hopefully we're in a new space in the spring or summer with maybe 5,000 or 6,000 square feet.
That's awesome. What advice do you have for anyone that wants to start a cash practice, or any students that are like, oh, I need to start a cash practice to do this?
Really, it's just like the people who I see in those classes who say, I want to work with elite athletes. So, oh, wow, that's impressive. Like, Cool. How many elite athletes do you know right now who you're training or working with or doing no for any reason whatsoever? Oh, well, none. I'm in school. Right. So you're way behind it. Like you won't. Like you may luck upon one guy who sort of plays tennis at a 4 or 5 level and has got some elbow pain, you know, in your mill. But they don't go to mills. They also go to people who have entrenched themselves in tennis, or like there's an amount of trust that has to go with that. So same with cash practice. Like, what are you doing now as a student or a practitioner that exudes value, that people are like, you know what, I just feel it coming out of you differently, because you have to have something else, because PT is offered everywhere. There's good enough clinics all over the country. You know, you want to establish the fact that you're creating much more than just a good enough clinic. You're an all the way well care person. You're a value person. So whether it's like, you know what, I do this on the side, you know, in a training gym or in a CrossFit box, whatever, like, but you got to get out there and do it first. You can't just go, I'm going to hang my shingle and just hope everybody trusts that I'm going to put value out. Unless you're doing it now, I wouldn't bother. And then the other thing is that once you think you've got that and people will latch on to your vision for value, then it's leap time.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So if someone wants to get in touch with you or follow you online on Facebook, Twitter, etc., can you just tell us where to find you?
Yeah. So on Twitter, I'm at Spark Physio. Facebook, we've got our Spark Physio page. My page is just Carlos J. Berio. We've got a Spark Tough presence. We've got a Spark University presence on Facebook. All depending upon what we're putting out, we'll kind of populate each of those things. And then we're on Instagram at Spark Physiotherapy. What else is there? So we're going to be monthly in US News and World Report on Eat and Run blog. So if you follow us on those other medium, you'll get links for that. And anytime those are like shared out, like a lot of times, you know, other news organizations will pick up an article out of that, and they will. I'll be sure to share all that too.
Awesome. That's really great. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your day and your week and treatments and et cetera to be with us and to, you know, drop the knowledge and share what you're doing and what's working. It's really excited to see that. So thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Aaron. I'm really happy to have you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you know, thanks again, Carlos. Thank you everyone who came and joined us for this live webinar. If you want to learn more about Carlos, I'll post the links on the blog and just go there in a few days. You'll also get a replay for the video today. And if you're interested in learning more about cash-based physical therapy, you can come join us in the CashPT Nation Facebook group on Facebook. For the CashPT Nation, LeBauer Consulting, and the CashPT Lunch Hour. This is Aaron LeBauer, Carlos Berio, and you guys have a great, productive, awesome week, and peace out.
Peace.